Hey, alright, I got my foot up on the gas. It's the Joe Q Car Show podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to the Joe Q Car Show. Today we have Mark Taylor from The Garbage Pod and TGP Nominal. Mark Taylor, tell me about yourself and the shows you are doing right now.
Okay, well, I started doing podcasting in 2011. And this was down to the fact that there was a recession going on and I lost my job and I was trying to find something that I could do. And in a previous life, I was working for a radio station, so I was into broadcasting and stuff. So I thought, hey, why not try podcasting? And well, gone on ever since. So we got the two podcasts, the Garbage Pod, which is more like a magazine style show. So you've got lots of different things that we could put into the show. We started off calling ourselves the Podcasters Podcast. Reason because fitting for this type of time of what we're going through at the moment, podcasters live in isolation a lot of the time. And so I thought it'd be good for podcasters to hook up, well, not hook up, because that's means a different thing in the States than it does here, to meet up and basically let other people know about their podcast and bring their podcast to a different audience and vice versa. And then from that, the Garbage Pod started to get a little bit more space and sci-fi stuff into it. And one of my listeners said to me, if you're going to keep doing that, you might lose me as a listener. So I thought, hang on a minute. So there is a niche for this. So I thought, let's start a second podcast. And TGP Nominal was born.
So that is, so I did listen to both the shows and just a handful of episodes on both sides. And one thing I can say about both of your shows that you're producing right now, they're both thoughtfully produced. You know, you have nice little segments and bumpers, and you can tell you have that kind of radio vibe, especially that UK radio vibe is alive and well on your podcast. And I really did find it very enjoyable. It was like you were just tuning in to a station, and you had nice bumpers and really thoughtfully executed kind of audio collages of, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking and just, you know, other notable individuals that were kind of put into the show. So your one show was The Garbage Pod, and that seemed to be very Eurovision centric, right?
It has been over the last few years, mainly because we got some really good feedback from people on that episode, because Eurovision is a huge thing across the world. Mm-hmm. We do other things as well. We do try and go out to other events, and sometimes we go to like food festivals, beer festivals, music festivals, all kinds of different things. So we try and include a lot of things, but Eurovision has come up quite a lot on there.
That's what I was noticing. The earlier episodes seemed to be a little bit more a little bit more all-encompassing, and then some of the later episodes were more on Eurovision. But so you started The Garbage Pod, and then you found this great little phrase called TGP Nominal. So can you explain that to my listeners?
Well, the TGP is obviously the Garbage Pod.
Right.
Nominal is something that we use because it's a term that comes up in pretty much every space launch. Nominal just means everything is good. So we wanted to put a positive spin on it. Originally, we were going to call ourselves TGP Throttle Up, but then that kind of reminded people of the Challenger explosion. Ooh, so we thought, maybe not a good idea. So nominal, positive spin on things, let's use it.
That's great. So in TGP Nominal, this show you've dedicated it to space exploration, astronomy, and I mean you've even had some very good interviews on the show. When you started doing that show, did you have a direction on it that was so, I mean, you had a defined direction, but did you know that it was going to be something that would spawn or be part of such a bigger community? Or was it just something you were doing for fun? Because it seems like you're part of a very large, especially like UK club of astronomers here, amateur and pretty much pro, right? Like, you have people on from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and stuff, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, when we first started this, it was just going to be myself doing it. And then I was listening to a friend of mine who I discovered through another podcast, actually. It's funny how podcasting is a huge community and you kind of work together, which is a great thing. And this friend of mine, he's based in Pennsylvania,
Uh-huh.
and he feels as strongly about space and science and the more geeky side of it as well. So the video gaming, um, movies, everything that goes along with sci-fi and science fact. And you'll find that most of the people in the space community are into the sci-fi side of things as well. So we thought if we merge them together, then we capture everybody. So that's how that pretty much started. But we just thought it was just going to be the two of us just back and forth. And it was for a while. And then one day I had an email from somebody at NASA saying, would you like some people to interview from NASA? And I thought, now, is this for real or is this fake? Or, so I forwarded the email to John, my co-host, and said, look, do you think this is real? And he said, well, there's only one way to find out and contact them back. So I did. And it turns out it was from the Goddard Space Flight Center. They wanted us to do some interviews with some of their personnel. And at that point, it just blew my mind because it was like, somebody at NASA is listening to this podcast. I didn't know where to go at that point.
And that's what I love about podcasting is it's a very narrow, but like you can go narrow and tall on your listeners. Like basically you can take this small little slice and go all the way to the pinnacle of what that slice is, whatever that, whether that be like makeup tutorials or sci-fi or cars or just the craftsmanship, tattoos. It's just you can take one little slice of something and you can find the exact people that are the most interesting in that field and actually have a lot of access to them. So I'm glad you found that. That's incredible that you were able to connect with these people. Actually, they reached out to you. So
weird thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's not weird. You do a good show, so I would understand why people would want to be part of that. How did you get started kind of falling in love with sci-fi and space and all, things with giant engines, things like that?
Well, obviously, I wasn't around to see the Apollo launches, but back in '81, I was about 8, I guess, in '81 when the first space shuttle launched, and I watched it on TV with my grandfather. And it was one of the things I always remember was sitting there with my grandfather watching the shuttle launch. And that's what got me into space, into the science facts part of it. But sci-fi, obviously, the thing that got me into sci-fi, it was Star Wars.
I think that really now are you a Star Wars fan like me? Like you found Star Wars very early and then you ended up kind of like for me the franchise has changed a lot since you or I watched it when we were kids, but
Yeah.
I'm a Star Wars fan. I think I always will be a Star Wars fan, but Star Trek is also pretty cool too. Like it seems like you're agnostic when it comes to whatever space thing you're into, but that was the one thing that pulled you in. Was it the Millennium Falcon? Was that it for you?
It was, yeah. I think it was the fact that it was this used universe that you saw space stuff before and everything was squeaky clean and everything was polished. Star Wars wasn't like that unless you were in the Empire and everything was. But yeah, it was something that appealed to me. It was kind of like this space fairy tale. And yeah, because I wasn't old enough to watch the original. In '77, I was 4. My folks didn't want me to see it, so I actually saw Empires first, and then I had to wait for the UK network television premiere of Star Wars, which was in '82. So I actually got to see it the other way round. So for me, Empires was the film. I think it was the better film of the original trilogy. I think it was more grown up
I
than the
feel
other
like
two.
it's hotly contested, but I mean, I also have to agree with you. I think Empire is definitely the best one. Oh my gosh, the amount of research that goes into what you do as a podcaster and as a as a fan, really, being a sci-fi fan and also science fact fan, it takes a lot of research. Can you kind of speak to the kind of research you're doing before you're preparing for maybe looking up at the stars, or because that's something you also do as an amateur astronomer?
Um, I know about the planets and things, and I know what they're made of and different things like that. We have the guys from UK Astronomy on board, which is a charity actually, a charity-based organisation who go around teaching schools and scout groups and that kind of thing, and teaching kids to look up and what to look up for. Now, Ross Hockham, who is their founder, who's also a firefighter as well, he came on board after I heard him doing one of his public speaking things, and I thought, wow, this guy, he has a way with people. And I thought, well, we need to get him on the show. And now he is our resident astronomer. So what I don't know, Ross does. So what we do with that is that he comes on board at the beginning of each month, and we put out Ross's unique sky guide for the month, so people know what to look up for the rest of the month. When it comes to research for the other stuff we do, for the more space flight and that kind of thing, we look at the usual kind of news stories that you get from like space.com and stuff like that, but we'll look into it a bit more and we'll find out the ins and outs of things, because we know people are going to be asking these questions. But then we change how it's written so that the average Joe can understand what we're talking about. Because when you're dealing with NASA and space agencies, everything has an acronym. So we have to sort of break it down. So, well, what does that mean? Okay, so we go into it and explain what that actually means.
Yeah, I found the show is very accessible as someone who's interested in this but hasn't pursued it as much as maybe I would like to do. I find myself kind of like, browsing on the internet for beginner telescopes and things like that. But my area is so light polluted, I think it would be hard to see much of anything. I will say, like, things like Star Wars and other science fiction, it gets you into it. What keeps you going in it? When you look up at the sky, is it something you feel, or are you interested in these giant things floating around? What keeps you into this?
Well, I think it's the fact that knowing that there is 250 miles up, there are people constantly living off of this planet. And it's the thought that, one day maybe all of us can be doing that at some point. It'll be a multi-planetary species. And it's the thought of that drives me, really. I'm involved with an organisation called Yuri's Night, which it was started up in 2001. And the aim of that was to have one event every year that when we leave this planet, people away from the planet as well as people on the home world can actually celebrate this one event together wherever you are in the galaxy. And the date that they set for this was the 12th of April, which was the day that Yuri Gagarin first left and went into orbit. And it's also the same day, 30 years later, that the first shuttle launch took place. So it combines the two, and it's a global space party. Whether you're just having a couple of drinks with your friends and raising a glass to Yuri Gagarin, or you're going to one of these big space parties. They have a huge one at the California Science Center where they have a massive party underneath the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
It's a very uniting thing too. I feel like a lot of times humans kind of lose their way. Maybe we've lost our way recently, but I feel like when you look up in the stars, I know I get a feeling of smallness, but also a feeling of unity with the rest of our species, like, and all the animals and everything here on Earth. And it's like I look up there, I feel so small, and I feel like, man, we have to do something to get off of this small little planet we have and go explore. It is in human nature to do this. And
yeah,
I feel very inspired looking up at the stars. In fact, just I'm glad I have you on the show, because just last week I saw my first it was plain as day. It was like one of those Russian dash cam videos of a meteor entering the atmosphere, and I mean, it lit up the sky in a way that I thought I was going to die. Like, clear, it was amazing. My wife and I were out for a walk, and this hot, like white hot green thing shoots across the sky, and it's breaking apart in our atmosphere. And I'm looking at this thing thinking, how far has it traveled? What has it seen? Where has it been? And why is its end now? Or is this just some space debris crashing into our atmosphere? I think it was
we're right in the middle of two meteor showers, actually. They're very small ones, but depending on how dense the actual trail of debris that we're actually passing through might depend on how many meteors you actually see. And you saying that it's actually green in color, it does actually depend on what the actual makeup of the meteor is. So, if it's more iron based, it's going to be a different color than if it's more ceramic. So,
I've seen meteor showers before. Especially in Iceland, they had some really nice skies there. And but normally they're like little teardrops, just kind of little foof foof. This was just, this lit up the night sky in a way that I hadn't seen. In fact, I thought it was crashing to Earth. I'm like, are these my last moments? Like, really, it was truly incredible. And it was just one of those feelings, like when I look up at space, there's a sense of unity with other humans. And I'm wondering if you feel that too. Is that just a me thing?
No, it's definitely a human thing to feel that way, because if you listen to things like Carl Sagan once said, when everyone refers to the Earth as the pale blue dot, and then he's the guy who actually penned that expression, and he basically said something along the lines of, everyone you know, everyone you have known, and everyone you will know is on that little pale blue dot.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other person to not feel that was at that time was Michael Collins, because he took a photograph and it had the moon and the Earth in the same shot, and he was the only person not in that frame. So it was, you had Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon, the rest of the population on the Earth. He was the only one that wasn't in that frame.
Amazing. It is truly amazing. I feel like it's something we can all unite around, and we might have to if we keep ruining things here. Yeah, the space exploration side really gets me thinking in a very existential fashion. And I always found that it was interesting, because that on an intellectual level you can engage with people that are into science fiction and science fact in a very meaningful way, no matter what nationality you're in. And you guys are seeing different skies than what I'm seeing here in the US over in Michigan, and it's still something I can very much appreciate, listening to your show and seeing like, oh cool, that sounds cool, like what kind of view can I get of these planetary bodies. So when you were a kid, were you going out there doing this stuff, or is this something that happened later in life?
Well, I was always looking up at the sky,
Mhm.
not necessarily through a telescope or binoculars or something, but it was something that, you used to lie out in the garden, and my parents had a cat, and the cat used to come along, sit on me. I used to just lie out there at night looking up at the sky, and it used to fascinate me. You used to see the odd comet or whatever going past, and it was, you used to wonder what it was, and that inspired me to look more into it. But the actual looking more carefully into things did come along a bit later on. And actually through the guys at UK Astronomy, I learned a lot in that time.
So when you started doing this show, it started off as something between you and a friend, and you've had this big community. What kind of community events have you covered lately? Or maybe not lately,
Wow.
but yeah, like lately there has been a lot going on because of current things. But what have you covered here? Like some of the highlights of the things you've covered would be nice.
Well, I've been involved with an event called Space Rocks. When Space Rocks is a play on words, really, because there's two aspects of the actual event. It's an event put on by the European Space Agency, and it covers the space side of things, and then halfway through, it turns into a massive concert. So that's where the rocks comes into it. So Space Rocks, and they do have astrogeologists there as well. So there's space rocks at the event as well. But you've had people that, I met Tim Peake, the UK astronaut there. I met Brian May. I've met the people behind the Rosetta missions. I met Jason Isaacs, actually, at the event last year. So that was pretty cool.
Those kind of things they're high water marks when it comes to that kind of thing, so it's incredible. Congratulations. And so this is weird, because I know you and I are both kind of small time podcasters with narrow fields of view when it comes to what we're talking about on some of our shows. What when that kind of event happens, does it make it feel worth it for you? Is this something that you like, wow, I have to continue doing this, or do you do it just for the love of talking with other people? Why do you keep going? What makes, because obviously you're not making money off of this in any huge
That's
way,
right.
and so like what makes you keep going down this path?
I think it is the fact that I'm reaching out to people. And I go to another event, which is more on the sci-fi side of things, Feel the Force Day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you'd think that was Star Wars related. In a way, it is, but it's a film and television convention set up for people with disabilities. And the reason why this is in my heart so much is because it's set up so that the kids and adults as well, especially if they're partially sighted or completely blind, can access the movies through touch. And that's why it's called Feel the Force Day. And I've got to meet so many people from the sci-fi industry there. I met Dave Prowse, who's Darth Vader. I also met Spencer Wilding, who's Darth Vader in Rogue One. Jeremy Bullock, who's Boba Fett. I've met so many people from Star Wars in that thing. We haven't really had many Star Trek people at the event. That's something that the guys need to work on. But I was tasked to make one of these Field of Force Day events in my hometown back in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, which was due to be in the middle of June 2020, but obviously that's been cancelled now. But we are going to go on with it and do it again in 2021. So it's a great event. And I was at the event one year, and this kid came up to me. He was blind, and he said, "I recognise your voice from the podcast." And at that point, just that one person that it touched made me want to carry on. So yeah,
that's truly amazing. I really that kind of moment will stick with you forever, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. Those are the reasons you keep doing things like this, that you get to meet incredible people and have these life-changing moments through just being together and being part of a community.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out our Thanksgiving special. Make sure to go over to our Patreon page for more content like reaction time, and don't forget to check out the Joe Q Car store for all of your holiday needs.
Writer, reviewer, sometimes podcaster, automotive mechanic by trade, dog lover. You may have read his stuff on Car Throttle. You may have seen his cutting reviews on Knife Informer. It's James McIntosh. And it is Macintosh. If I say it like that, that's pretty right.
Yeah, that's I haven't figured out a different way to pronounce it yet.
All right, great.
I've never used Zoom before, so previously when I recorded shows, I used Skype and Audacity to capture audio. But
yeah, it's so like Zoom is like a blessing and a curse, because like it's easy. Like a lot of people could do it, but it also like it only has up to like this much quality, like right here. And when you do it the way you did it, it's like this, but the complication is like way higher. So I don't want to do that. I try to keep things simple because,
when we still hosted our show, we had, all of our guests were remote. We didn't do anything in person, like with the impressive looking studio you've got.
Impressive. If I turned around the camera, you could see the facade fall away. It would just be like more. There's like, but I make it look like a studio. That's the point.
Looks like a studio. I see sound deadening over to the right.
Right. Yeah. It's just I have just enough sound deadening to make people think it's a professional operation.
When you're looking at the field of vision that you got, that's
Oh my God. Hold on. If I can actually adjust the field of view. Nope, that's not it. Oh no, here it is. So like you can just see like it falls away like right here. Like that's it. This is the studio. So
in a corner.
Yes, it is just. I'm faking it pretty well, actually, I think.
What is it they say? You got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah, it's just weird because like mentally I'm like, this is fine. Like this is what I want. So I'm so happy to have him on the show. James, what do you drive?
Currently I have a 2007 Ford Explorer Sport Track Limited V8.
Oh, the V8. I did not know it was a V8. I saw it pop up on Instagram and I was like, that's a good choice. But the V8 is the choice when you get that vehicle.
Yeah, kind of uncommon.
It's not, yeah, like I didn't even realize that they put, I mean, I know they put the V8s in the Explorers, but yeah, that's kind of amazing. Do you have now before that you were a Volvo aficionado, enthusiast, or like acolyte? What word describes you best?
Well, I had a couple of Volvos, one a long time ago and then one recently. I had a 95 Volvo 850 sedan, which I had bought for the princely sum of $1,500, and then I put about 80,000 miles on it over 6 years.
That's awesome.
Finally got rid of it in March of this year. So, and as far as I know, it's still running too, with something like 340,000 miles on the original motor.
That's what I like, cars that can make it to the moon. So once you get to around that 250,000 mile mark, like that's when they're really broken in.
Yeah.
So like you've earned my respect, of course. Actually, the funny part, I met James because he was doing a podcast, and I think it was plugged on the Hooniverse website. And that's how I got into contact with James, and we've been buddies ever since. And he's actually the guy who's gotten me into more of the knife and EDC community. And you've been writing for them for a little bit. How did you get into that?
Well, so I had written for Car Throttle for several years, and then I stopped doing that and went into other things career-wise because I needed to find something that I could actually make a living doing. And when I started getting into knives, I gravitated towards Reddit, of course, because there's a really vibrant community of people there. And somebody on one of the knife-related subreddits said they were looking for writers to write reviews for their website. And I was like, well, I wrote reviews on cars for Car Throttle, and I know a little bit about knives because I've been a knife nerd for a long time. I said, well, I'll give it a shot. And I wrote a review, and the guy that started the website said, this is great. You're hired. So it was just kind of a happenstance. I met the guy that was starting the website on Reddit. And it was originally called Best Pocket Knife Today, which is the worst name that I can possibly imagine for a website. And then it was changed to Knife Informer, which I think is much less kindergarten sounding.
I mean, like, it's a very focused review of his best knife today. But yeah, no, Knife Informer sounds very professional. I think that's a good name, and it kind of reminds me of like Game Informer magazine too. So it's like, even if you're just talking about it, you're like, were they owned by the same parent company or something? So.
No, not as far as I'm aware.
But yeah, so the reviews on Knife Informer that you're doing right now, I enjoy your reviews because everything you put in with that like usability touch that only somebody who really is using these products can understand. So I feel like when you do a review, it is from an automotive mechanics point of view, and that translates into the reviews really well, and that just works for, I feel like, so many people, because a lot of times you're using these knives and multi-tools and just all this EDC gear you're using to fix things, and a lot of times you're fixing a car. So I feel like it translates really well into that community, your background with Car Throttle and also fixing cars for so long.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I noticed with the web space for knife reviews is that a lot of it is I can't think of a diplomatic way to say this. A lot of it is like shill websites, and it's here's a 40-word blurb on a product, and here's our Amazon affiliate link, and
that's it. That's all that's there
for goofy shit on AliExpress. But there wasn't really a lot of actual like objective content relating to how things work and function. I mean, there are a couple of good websites. I've taken some inspiration from Anthony Scullombrini's everydaycommentary.com. That's how I first really got into gear reviews. But a lot of the websites are they don't go into any detail. They don't even really tell you how things work or how they work. And so I like to go into the mechanical nitty gritty of things, as well as the how well does it function in the realistic use case.
Yeah, and that's actually something I have here. It's the function is so important to you. The action, there's just like, is this gonna last? And like, obviously we're talking about the guy who got his Volvo to a huge amount of mileage. I don't, into the mid or late 300,000s. And I'm sure you're gonna keep your Explorer Sport Track for as long as that exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I find about people that are really, using these knives in the knife community. They want things to last. The interview that I had with the advanced knife bro, like he was very much the same way, where he just wants things to last. And I feel like, besides just the normal, like, I want something that's going to be durable, it takes like a special kind of person to want something to last so long. And that's even like a testament to the knife that you sent to me so kindly, that I still use, the SUG Terminus XR. Like, this thing's been through a lot, and you kept it very nice. Like, the day I got it, it felt still like a brand new thing. And I know you went through and like redid all the bearings and everything. Like, it's so nice. So like, why do you want to keep things going so well?
Well, I think I appreciate durability as an engineering component. I think it's one of the most admirable things. One of the most admirable qualities that a product can have, especially these days when a lot of products are designed with a really short shelf life, a really short life cycle. You buy a phone, and if a smartphone lasts 4 years, well, that's a durable smartphone. That's an expensive object. And we use a lot of natural resources to create it, and then we're creating more environmental problems when we dispose of it. And people just don't seem to care about durability, and they don't seem to care about durability with cars anymore. Cars these days are the antithesis of durability. It's stuff that in 10 years it's not going to work. It's
Yeah.
just not going to work. And so I like knives and gear and gadgets that are simple and durable and don't need to be replaced.
Like your watch too. That's another thing you post on your Instagram all the time. It's like your watch is just still ticking away, man. Like it's impressive.
I have it works perfectly. I have a minor obsession with Casio digital watches. I have a bunch of them. I just really like them because it's so much function over form, which is a thing that I think from a design standpoint is admirable that you can get away with and then successfully market. Because a lot of can't market like oh gosh, and I don't want to butcher the guy's name, but I'm pretty sure it's Kiko Ibe, the guy at Casio that created the G-Shock concept in the 80s. He wanted a watch that you could drop from 5 meters up and it didn't break. He wasn't like, I want to create a timepiece for the ages that everyone will love and cherish. Like he's like, I want a watch that I drop and it doesn't break, because that doesn't exist. And that's the kind of design ethos that I like.
That's interesting. Like the form follows function. You're more of a function follows form kind of person. And I think that like utilitarian kind of way of life just makes things easier sometimes. Like, having something hold up, you can count on it, you can rely on it. I think that also speaks to your personality too. Like I've done podcasts with you. No, seriously. Like I've done podcasts with you and I was like, hey, could you be here at like 8:15? And you're like, boom, I'm here 20 minutes ahead of schedule. I'm ready to go. I've downloaded the programs. Like everything's double checked and triple checked, ready to go. I feel like like you're like if a Casio watch was like a person, right? Like you're just like super reliable and just there.
If the shoe fits.
Where does that come from? Why do you want to be like, of course it has its own merits, but a lot of people focus on other things. Why is like being dependable such a part of your person?
Oh man, that is a question I've never heard or contemplated. I don't want to make life harder for myself or for anyone that has to deal with me. So I try to be prepared. I'm not always perfect on that front, but yeah.
It's just interesting. It's just an interesting thing because all the good mechanics I know are like that. Like all the people that are out there fixing cars and also because that's what you have a day job. You can't just pay all the bills writing Knife Informer reviews, right?
I know. No, I have a day job.
So the day job is you working and being a mechanic and tearing out a lot of full interiors. I can tell that that's one of your favorite things.
I'm not sure it's that I tear out a lot of interiors. It's that I like to take pictures when I tear out a full interior because you go, wow, look at this pile of parts I have in this other bay.
It's amazing how much is in there.
It's alarming. Yeah. And especially more so with all this newer stuff. It's really nuts. But yeah, my day job, I'm a mechanic at a Lincoln dealership here in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I get to work on the expensive Fords, which is a blessing and a curse. Mostly blessing though, because it's a pretty good living.
It's a good living, and also you get to surround yourself with so much luxury every day and near luxury segment vehicles.
Like luxury.
You get to work. You get your hands dirty in the lap of luxury. I think that the thing though is, I was getting at the fact that you and all the good mechanics and all the good people that work with their hands every day, they want to keep things working. They appreciate a good gadget, no matter what it is.
Oh, that's
fair. And I also know that serviceability is like super important, and that's also something you touch on all the reviews that I've read that are actual reviews, not just commentary in like the automotive industry. Right. You're always kind of you have that empathy towards the person that's going to eventually fix that only can come from somebody who's actually fixed stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I frequently look at how things are designed, especially with cars. With knives there's a little bit of it, but there's only so many parts in a knife, and there's only so many things to take apart and fuss with. And so in knives there's certain things I look at, like, does this product use standard fasteners? Like, does it use a Torx bit that I can just pull out of my toolkit and take apart? Or does it use some proprietary screw that you have to, buy a special tool to deal with? So things that are serviceable are important. But when it comes to cars, you can really tell that they were designed to be assembled. They weren't designed to be serviced. They were designed to be assembled. And you go, why is this on top of this other component? I can't service that. Well, they weren't even thinking about you servicing it.
They were-
They weren't even contemplating it. So, that's why myself and a lot of other mechanics have this nostalgia for stuff from the past, old Mercedes Benzes. It's why I like Volvos, old Hondas. All that stuff was serviceable. It wasn't, you didn't have to take out a million things to get to what you were at, what you were going for. You didn't have to, drill out rivets and, that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. See, and I feel like that adds to durability too, because there's just less to go wrong. And it's like, if you put all your time and energy as like the product design team to just make a really good part and make it easily accessible, then, you end up with like a modern day Corolla or something like that, I guess. I don't know. Even that's super complicated now with their crazy transmission and all that. But like, what if you were out there on the market right now and you're like, I want the most mechanically simple car? What are you going to tell somebody to get?
Oh gosh. Well, I would tell them not to get anything that had direct injection or a CVT transmission, which these days is getting harder and harder to avoid.
Yeah.
Pretty much every Honda now has direct injection and a CVT, which are two things that I think are antithetical to long-term ownership prospects. Well, direct injection is great, assuming you have the tools to close all of the valves and walnut blast the back of the valves every 30,000 miles. And I'm not interested in that for a 3% gain in fuel economy. Like,
Right.
and then CVTs, some brands make a decent CVT. And I've talked to some people that have said, well, the CVT in my Maxima has 300,000 miles and it's fine. But the majority of that stuff does not have any sort of longevity to it. And it's not serviceable. On an old transmission, like a Ford 4-speed in a truck, there are parts you can get for inside the transmission. You can take it out, take it apart, fix it, put it together, and it works. With the CVT, it's, the serviceable part is the whole thing. So, so if I were trying to find a new vehicle that was actually durable, it would probably be something like a Honda Fit or full-size Chevy trucks, that kind of thing. Simpler stuff mechanically.
I think that it's a difficult question to answer because your version of durable is different than the person's version of durable a lot of the time. And they're like, durable for them is like, I just want it to be no trouble for the first 4 years of ownership. And it's like, okay, take your pick. A lot of cars are going to be able to do that. But like durable for
under those criteria, but
yeah.
You couldn't get me to buy one of those with a gun to my head.
Well, and the average owner, I saw this kind of doing some research. Average ownership of a vehicle in the U.S. is 12 years now, and so like the cars are having to last longer. It's actually trending longer. It used to be 10 years, used to be 8 years, and now it's 12 years of owning a vehicle. It's the average age of a vehicle actually on the road. So that says a lot about buying power and wage stagnation and stuff. But besides all that, like where do you keep why do you keep your cars for 12 years when I like old cars too, but I like switching cars, right? So why do you like sticking with the same thing?
Well, it's expensive to buy a new car. Have you seen how expensive they are?
Yeah, well, that's why I buy old cars that are fully depreciated.
It's always cheaper to fix than to replace. I think there's a certain amount of preference to it. I just don't really like a lot of newer cars. I don't like how they're designed, and I don't like the powertrain in a lot of newer stuff. But also, like, people saying, "Oh, it's so expensive to put a radiator in my car." Like, well, have you seen how much a new car costs? It's
Right.
more than one radiator worth.
It's so weird. Like, I feel like there's like a subsection of people that have just like figured out the cheat code of automotive ownership,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, keep your thing running by doing regular maintenance, and also stop buying a bunch of new cars. And it's way cheaper. Just if you put away a couple bucks every pay period, you can easily afford anything that's going to go wrong once you have a reliable vehicle. Obviously, I'm speaking from a point where, like it sucks when you're in that cycle when you're just kind of like having to buy a crappy car, and you can't, you end up being in a circle of finance. That's the whole thing. But like, once you can get like a baseline you buy the old Corolla, or like the very simple like Mirage or something like that, just to get you here or there.
Let's not give Eric more credit than he deserved.
Hey, he should have bought a manual if he was going to do that. The one flaw in the plan.
Yeah.
We're alluding to Eric, co-host on Just Cool Enough. If you haven't checked out that show, I do another show called Just Cool Enough. But
Highly recommended. One of my favorite podcasts.
oh man, thanks for now this is going to be like one of those Knife Informer. There's knife reviews that aren't on Knife Informer, where it's just like, click this affiliate link. Oh, but that's actually something I wanted to comment on. It's so tough to find a good review. It really is, because like you were talking about, every review is kind of like using base text from what the manufacturer sent out. And it's not even, I don't even call these reviews. Just every one of these shill sites are sending just text out from the manufacturer that they gave you, and then like a spec sheet and like a couple of photos that are a lot of time just like press kit photos. And then it's an Amazon affiliate link, or, and
take their own pictures, which is baffling. Like, you have a phone, if it's in the last 3 to 5 years, your phone could take perfectly good pictures. I use an old DSLR to take pictures for my reviews, but if you have a new iPhone,
exactly, like, and it just baffles my mind. Obviously, why these sites do that, because it's simple to do, and just throwing that affiliate link up there, but there's no appreciation for the craft. There's an appreciation for the person clicking and looking at the link, and it's a marketing tool where I feel like, obviously everybody wants to, live a comfortable life, make money, but it's devoid of the passion of what it's about, so.
And maybe that's because some of those websites, somebody might own several of those, and that's what they do for a living. I own, it's probably a good business to be the guy that owns the website that reviews washing machines, or the guy that reviews, industrial fans, top 10 industrial fans of 2020, 17 affiliate links, and a bunch of ads.
This is actually a great idea. I'm going to take these notes right now.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm certainly not jumping on that train.
I'm a big fan of Big Ass Fan Company. They do amazing industrial fans.
They do make really nice fans. They really make a lot of CFM. But so for me and for my editor at Knife Informer, like this, it's not our day job. We just really like knives, and we like writing about them. And he likes producing the content, which is good, because I'm not good with graphic design and all that stuff. But it's just a side project for us. So I think that if you own a shill site, I think the model is probably you own 17 of them, and you keep them updated regularly, and you make enough ad revenue to, pay your mortgage payment in Baton Rouge or wherever.
I think that it is a valid business model, but I just like, it would be nice if they had like actual like passionate people writing these things, right? Like, and that's where you go, and that's why I go to YouTube, because you can't fake the passion on one of those sites. And I guess maybe unfortunately, but maybe fortunately also, I think YouTube probably builds out more people interested in it, and it might send more people to your venture. But like, that's where I go first to kind of get an idea of stuff, and then I start reading the text reviews that are more detailed and slow paced and really methodical, because nobody's making 70-minute overviews of these things where like that's the kind of detail a review goes into. When you're kind of looking at it, it doesn't take 70 minutes to read, but you can tell there's a lot of intricacies that's gone into writing it. And yeah, so like is that a place? Do you go to YouTube a lot for perspective on this stuff?
I don't watch a lot of knife reviews on YouTube. I mean, there's a couple. Of course, I'm a big fan of Nick Shabazz. I think a lot of knife people are, mostly because he does a lot of disassembly videos. You can see the inner workings of stuff and understand it better. I do also like the Advanced Knife Bro. When I saw that you had him on, I was real excited, because his content is actually entertaining.
Yes.
Because a lot of knife reviewers on YouTube are very dull. And I don't know, there's only so many hours in a day. I can't watch a 35, I can't watch a Nut and Fancy or a Cutlery Lover video. Like,
oh, I love those guys too. Like, I've sat there, but I have to be in the mood, right? Like,
I'm never in the mood. I just don't have time. I just don't have time to watch stuff that's not interesting. And so, you know, a lot of the content I watch on YouTube is automotive related stuff. There's some automotive channels I really like, but a lot of the and Advanced Knife Pro, when he was on your show, talked about it, like the top down view of a knife, talking about it for 45 minutes. It drives me insane personally. You know, no disrespect to anybody that does that or enjoys that, but it is. I just don't have the attention span.
I don't know. Well, I feel like, yeah, it's like you got other things you could do. I feel like once you're like set on a product, like you've read enough reviews and like have an idea, it's that I end up watching these reviews either right before I'm gonna buy something, just to like make sure like it all checks out, or like after I already bought it to make sure, like as it's in shipment, you know, I'm like did I make the right decision? It's like, let's see what are these people talking about, and then like, okay, good, they're validating what I was saying. It's like, did I think of this? Did I think of that? So it's kind of an interesting thing. But yeah, I am definitely on YouTube and podcasts more than the average person. Like I will sit and have it running in the background and just like auto playing stuff all day. I'm like a content person's dream, because I'll just sit there and just run up the numbers. But
a lot of podcasts, a lot of them when I'm at work, but it's mostly like history stuff.
Good.
I feel like I didn't pay attention to a lot of history classes when I was in high school and college, and so I'm getting my history education while I'm.
Isn't it funny though? Like it's an interesting thing, because I feel like classes in school might have sucked a lot of the fun out of the things that you may have enjoyed, and I'm learning so much more now, like actively seeking out information through podcasts and other platforms and YouTube, just learning all the time. And so like, what history podcasts are you really into?
Oh gosh, there's a bunch of them. I really like American History Tellers, American Scandal, Swindled. I listen to a lot of disaster podcasts. There's a local one called All Bad Things that I listen to every week from Gary that do that. Wicked Game, American Elections, which is also another Wondering podcast that's about all the U.S. presidential elections. Yeah, there's a bunch. Spectacular Failures is a good one too. So is Business Wars. I listen to a lot of
I can't believe I like, and those aren't like it's not like you just went through like top podcasts and just subscribed. You're digging deep for some of these, man. Like this is like underground and grassroots podcasting kind of a thing.
It's not super underground. Also, Malcolm Gladwell's podcast Revisionist History is fantastic. And Reply All on Gimlet. Reply All is really
so
good.
those are big ones.
You gotta listen to Just Cool Enough.
I just sprinkle that one in there. But the I think when you listen to so many different podcasts, it gives you perspective, and it's so interesting when one of those shows cover the same thing that another show covers, and you get a totally different view of these same things. Like you'll the big beats everybody hits, but like the details are so different. And again, this is why I enjoy your content. This is why you're like, it's the details. Like it's not just the surface level stuff. You really pay attention to that, and that's why I appreciate your reviews and everything. So James, it's been really nice having you on. You've expanded my universe, which is always a great thing to do. Are you ever going to do any more podcasts? Because I really enjoy you specifically as a podcast and broadcaster.
It is a time-intensive thing that doesn't make any money for me. For a lot, I'm not I'm not Dan Carlin. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not the guys from the Dollop, which is another one I recommend, by the way, for history podcasts. And I enjoy doing them, but at this point, it's more like if somebody wants me to come on a show and talk, I love to come on a show and talk. But I've got a lot going on. My wife and I are buying a house right now. I've got the full-time job plus the side gig at the website. So it's more of a matter of time rather than a matter of desire, because I like doing podcasts. Michael and I had a great time doing our various shows that we did in the past. So
it was a good time.
It was, yeah. Especially the Hyundai Velobster.
You had me at Velobster. That's a callback from a different era at this point.
Yeah.
It was James. James and of course Michael Block. You got to check out his stuff too. Yeah. So, did I miss anything? Do you want to get on your soapbox about anything, James?
No, nobody wants to hear me get on my soapbox about anything. So it's just always such a pleasure to talk to you, and I wanted to come on your show and make it a little darker and heavier than it really needed to be.
It's apt if you're, say, darker and heavier and you're talking about industrial disasters. Man, you are just a genius of writing. Will you stick around and tell me a fun story for all of our Patreon supporters?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Well, for the rest of you that aren't going to Patreon, the show ends here. Thanks for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Do all the Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff because it really does help the show grow, and it is very much appreciated. And for anyone else, follow us over on Patreon, and you can be part of the $3 club to get the rest of this conversation. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Joe Q Car Show. To gain access to our exclusive after show, known as Reaction Time, cleverly named, I know, head over to patreon.com/JoeQCar, and you'll get to hear our behind-the-scenes thoughts, get some follow-up questions, get some tidbits we left out of the show as little extras. And in addition to the Reaction Time after show, you'll also receive a bunch of other benefits. You'll get behind-the-scenes updates, maybe some stickers, advance notice of who's coming on the show. You could even hang out with me if you're at that tier. There's a bunch of different things. Please go check them out. It's all at patreon.com/JoeQCar. Thank you so much for listening. I can talk all day, so until next time, goodbye for now.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's go. This is the Joe Q Car Show. You know right now I got a full tank, so if you ready, we can hit the road. Hey, old school is the best. Mixtapes on cassettes. Keep the rims so fresh. Yeah, electric cars, yeah, they the bomb. Racing cars, Formula One, we love it all. So if you love the episode, come back for another one. Yeah.